Good afternoon, I'm Alicia Asquith. Thousands of people have been stranded north of Fort McMurray for days. They haven't been able to travel the only highway south because of the flames still burning along the road. Today, though, not long after dawn, RCMP cruisers began escorting the first convoy of evacuees through. Our crews were on hand as some of those first people made the much-anticipated trip.
It's been a trying 3-4 days, whatever it's been. Yeah,
we all were separated.
Coming down the hill, she got separated from us, and she ended up coming south. They wouldn't let her turn around. So, no matter about anything else, we're together.
Oh, that's all that matters.
Well, we got some good clean air to breathe today. This is good. The last 20 hours, me and my friend were sitting in this truck on the side of the road.
And everybody was helping everybody. It was that's what calmed everybody down. It was like everything's going to be okay.
Made our way through Fort McMurray in the convoy out by place. Lots of smoke. There's still some smoldering fires at the north end. Pretty much the downtown looked like it was intact. It's hard to see anything with all the smoke.
From here, I'm not sure where we're going to go, and then we just try to figure out if the house is going to be livable, and just take it day by day and make a plan as we go.
Now, our Marion Warnica and cameraman Trevor Wilson have also been north of Fort McMurray and stuck there for days. Marion joins us now live. Marion, what are the people there saying tonight?
Well, what you're looking at behind me is a couple of the many buses that have pulled up to this camp. This is Noralta Lodge, and it's the closest evacuation center to north of Fort McMurray. It's the first one you hit as you drive out of town. So a lot of evacuees ended up here. There were also a lot of oil sands workers stationed here as well. These buses pulled up just a few minutes ago to pick people up. And what's happening is that people who are staying in these camps are getting notes like this in their room that say, go to the front desk. You will be prioritized based on medical, health needs, people with children, etc., and scheduled on a bus to the aerodrome. So these are flights that are leaving every 15 to 30 minutes. And this is all part of the plan that the province has been talking about. They want to start flying as many people out of here as they can, in addition to the road rescue that you heard about in that last report.
All right.
I can also tell you that there. Oh.
All right. You had something else to tell us about the situation up there, Marion?
Well, I was going to say there is some confusion and some worry among the people who were evacuated from Fort McMurray who are being told to get on these buses. And the same thing was actually happening yesterday. So they were getting these notes. The drivers were coming in and saying, okay, you have 15 minutes to pack and leave. But the folks who were evacuated from the flames in Fort McMurray are feeling uncertain, some of them, about whether or not they should be abandoning their vehicles and getting on these planes. They're saying they're not sure if they're able to bring their pets with them. They're saying this vehicle is all I have left and I don't want to abandon it. And they're confused. They're being told that they have to be out. One woman I just spoke to a couple of minutes before we came to talk to you said that she'd been told she had to leave the lodge and that there was no other place for her to stay. So the airport was her final destination. She needed to get there. For safety reasons and for logistics reasons, that does make sense. The province says they need to get these people out of here as soon as possible, so people should be following instructions. Alicia.
Absolutely, a confusing time. Thanks for this, Marion. That is the CBC's Marion Warnica live north of Fort McMurray tonight. Municipal Affairs Minister Danielle Larrivee gave us the most recent update on the fire situation about an hour ago now. Here's the latest for you.
The weather is not cooperating with us right now, and the fire is now estimated to be 101,000 hectares in size. Conditions remain very dangerous in the area, and I want to stress that the communities of Fort McMurray, Anzac, Gregoire Lake Estates, and Fort McMurray First Nation are still under mandatory evacuation notice. These communities are not safe, and people are not able to return to these communities until their safety can be assured. Conditions in our province remain extremely dangerous. Government announced a province-wide fire ban yesterday, and today I am announcing a province-wide ban on the recreational use of off-highway vehicles due to the risk these vehicles pose in the very dry conditions Alberta is experiencing right now. This restriction applies only to recreational use on public lands and provincial parks, including designated off-highway vehicle trails. It will not apply to agriculture, commercial or industrial use, or to Indigenous people using off-highway vehicles for farming, business operations, or traditional use. It will take immediate effect and has been enacted with the support of the Alberta Off-Highway Vehicle Association and their members.
The Alberta government has also announced new funding for the victims of the Fort McMurray fire. Premier Rachel Notley spoke to Albertans earlier today.
As we did after the Slave Lake fire and the southern Alberta flood, Cabinet today authorized the government to provide emergency financial assistance to people who have been displaced. We will provide $1,250 per adult and $500 per dependent. We will provide this assistance to approximately 80,000 people. We hope to deliver these funds to you in the coming days by Wednesday next week. This will cost the government approximately $100 million.
Notley says there's currently no timeline for when residents will be able to return to Fort McMurray. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is planning to come see the devastation in the community for himself, but it won't be anytime soon. The PM says he doesn't want to distract from the important work firefighters are already doing.
I can't say I look forward to it because just the pictures are troubling enough, but I know that it is going to be extremely important that I get out there.
And the second part of that
Secondly, we are working with the Premier and the emergency authorities extremely closely to deliver on everything they need. We understand that this is still an active situation. The wildfires are still raging. We are responsive to any needs that the province and communities put forward, and we will be actively engaged in providing whatever support is needed whenever we can.
Among the heartbreaking stories emerging from Fort McMurray is the newly revealed identities of two of its victims. The teenage daughter of a first responder and a relative died in a car crash while escaping the flames earlier this week. 15-year-old Emily Ryan was the daughter of Cranley Ryan, a deputy fire chief from Wood Buffalo. She was one of a set of triplets. Emily joined Aaron Hodgson, her stepmother's nephew, in an SUV. Police say the vehicle collided with a tractor trailer at Heart Lake First Nation on Wednesday afternoon. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Emily's father has been relieved of active duty to be with his family. The Fort McMurray fire has burned more than 1,000 square kilometers so far. Here's a sense of just how big of an area that really is. And keep in mind, the fire is expected to double in size. Sure puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Well, you can be sure everyone involved with the fire situation is hoping for rain right now, and it is coming. Here's Joanna Wagstaff with a look at the forecast moving into next week.
Well, northwesterly winds over the past couple of days have pushed the fires down towards the southeast. This is the latest fire map, and you can see the progression in red of the fires to the southeast of Fort McMurray. But winds are switching and temperatures building as we head into the weekend forecast. The northwesterly winds have also been pushing smoke down towards the southeast. Poor air quality in through southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. But shifting winds should help to mix some things up over the next couple of days. Again, northwesterly winds for most of the day have been gusting between 20 and 30 kilometers per hour. Temperatures still well above the seasonal of 16 for Fort McMurray, getting into the mid-20s, and they're going to get close to 30 degrees as we head into Saturday. That's all thanks to this big ridge of high pressure that brought the heat to BC. That's shifting eastward, and as it moves eastward, we'll see those northwesterly winds wrap around coming in from the south overnight into Saturday. So we've got a new wind direction for firefighters. It is helping to push, or it will help to push, the smoke and fire away from those southerly communities at risk last night. But areas to the north will be watching, and they'll be gusty through the weekend as well. As I mentioned, temperatures will also be climbing. We had a bit of a break over the past couple of days, but 30-degree heat will shift eastward. A very hot and dry Saturday in the forecast before we see things cool down Monday onward. But as those two systems slide through, shifting winds will once again be a concern. So again, southerly winds tonight, getting hot for Saturday. There is a slight chance of some showers on Sunday and then again on Monday, but with the air so dry, a lot of that rain might not make it to the ground. The one silver lining in the long-range forecast, things cool down significantly starting Monday.
So a little bit of good news there. In the meantime, many people are comparing what's happening right now in Fort McMurray to what happened almost exactly 5 years ago in Slave Lake. A year after that fire, a report into the province's response to that disaster made 21 recommendations to try and stop a similar disaster from happening again. Tom Burton was part of the team who wrote that report. He's also a councillor and firefighter chief in the Northern Alberta community of DeBolt. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Tom.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So obviously, really important report. What similarities and differences do you see between what happened in Slave Lake and what's happening right now in Fort McMurray?
Well, the similarities is it's devastating a community, as what happened in Slave Lake on May the 15th. However, the difference here is the impact of the amount of hectares that's being burned, plus the amount of people that had to be evacuated. Slave Lake was roughly 15,000 in total. We're up to 80, 90,000 here now and growing as the fire grows. So possibly there could be more communities that need to be evacuated. Not good.
No, it's a huge scale by comparison,
by all means,
for sure.
Yes.
Very briefly, how would you summarize some of those recommendations made to try to stop a disaster like the one that happened in Slave Lake from happening again?
We looked at 7 disciplines or themes to follow under, and some of it was communication, pre-planning, prevention, research and development, along those lines. And right now, what I've seen on this one, there was a lot of the recommendations that are being followed through. When you look at evacuating that many people without any fatalities, and my heart goes out to the 2 families that lost the ones in the accident, there was communication lines that was lacking in the previous evacuation of Slave Lake. That, from what I've seen here, isn't happening or didn't happen with Fort McMurray. And people are been patient, and I appreciate that very much, because that's where it leads to more disasters.
So shaping up a little bit better so far. In your opinion, how well has the government managed to implement some of those recommendations in this disaster?
Very well. I believe the province, when the committee put forth the recommendations, the previous government took it very seriously. This government has followed through on it and provided a lot of the resources that is needed to fight the fires. But this fire has been a little bit different, or quite a bit different than what happened in Slave Lake in the patterns that it's creating within itself. Wildfires create its own wind, create its own environment, and that's one of the challenges this first responders have been having on this one. And honestly, I think about the only way we're going to stop this is Mother Nature kicks in and gives us a good form of precipitation, not to stop it, to slow it down enough to allow the crews to get ahead of it and eliminate the fuel that's there. But a lot of people don't understand that wildfires, the embers will travel 3-4 kilometers and start other little spot fires, and that's the part that we have to really pay attention to.
Absolutely, and hence that ATV ban in the meantime.
I commend the province, and that's one of the recommendations that was brought forth in that review was province-wide bans ahead of the time of when you're going to see disasters hit. And right now, with the conditions that are out there across Alberta, I'll stand behind the province and commend them on doing that ban, because a lot of people don't realize if you're traveling out there, the sparks that'll come off of the vegetation that's sitting on your mufflers and stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of the recreation operators that pay close attention to that, but it just takes one little oversight and away it goes.
Just if you could leave us with a last thought, is there anything else you'd like to see being done right now that maybe isn't being done?
Honestly, no. The right now, not just Albertans, Canadians are pulling together to look after the evacuees and try to, you know, bring back Fort McMurray, you know, what's left, you know, protect it, what's there, and keep it growing. And I'm hoping in the future that the rebuild will happen, you know, quickly, and these people can get back to the roles that they were leading before the fire. So
that is the hope.
No, it's the, you know, our thoughts and prayers are out there to every one of them. You betcha.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
We've been speaking with Tom Burton, who helped to write a report for the provincial government with recommendations to try to stop wildfires from destroying Alberta homes. We'll take a look at this. Stunning before and after pictures of Fort McMurray. Cars, houses, trees, now gone, taken away by the wildfire. The images were put together by Reddit users online and are now making the rounds on social media. We'll have plenty more on the situation coming up on CBC News Edmonton. Well, here's a close-up look at the flames in Fort McMurray firefighters are still trying to put out. NBC News got inside the city and just look at the devastation. It gives you a sense of the challenging conditions fire crews face as they try to get things under control. Now, one of those firefighters includes Dale Chaffee. His wife, Suzanne, and their 2 children had to leave their home on Wednesday. She spoke to CBC News from Calgary earlier today about the drama of fleeing those flames and just how tough the situation is for the families of the first responders still in the danger zone.
First and foremost, I think about his safety, but I know he knows his job, and I know that his crew are keeping him safe. They would not have him in a dangerous environment, so I have to keep thinking about that. And I'm always sending him positive thoughts and pictures of the kids, and that's what's keeping him going at this point. He's operating on very little sleep, but this is his job, and he said that a number of times. I have to do this. I don't have a choice. They are completely exhausted, and the small things are really making a difference. At one point yesterday, he was able to get into his father's house in one part of Timberlea, and he got fresh socks. And he raided his father's sock drawer so that he could come back to his crew and just have fresh socks. And so to think that that's making their day brighter that's hard to even imagine that. We have had very little communication. I did connect with him about 11 o'clock last night. He said in one part of our neighborhood in Abisan, at one point the fire became like tornado-like, and they had to run. They had to drop their equipment and just get out of there. So those are the things that run through my head when I'm not hearing from him. I've never been through anything like this. And there was so much unknown. We didn't have room for 2 family pets, so we had to leave them. And my husband said, I can't leave them. One of them has been in our family for 13 years. And he said, you know what, Sue, she's dying of cancer. You need to get the kids and you to safety. And with that, I said, you're absolutely right. And so we sat in traffic for about a 3-hour run, or a 3-kilometer run from my house to that fire hall. It took us 3 hours. We were literally 15 minutes at one point. For 15 minutes, I hadn't moved an inch. And you see flames the sky is lit up with orange. And I honestly didn't think we'd get down the hill in time.
Quite a story. While we've been hearing a lot from politicians during this difficult time, we haven't been able to talk with those fire crews themselves who, as we just heard, have been run off their feet trying to contain the flames. Last night, Regional Fire Chief Darby Allen tweeted out a short video updating the situation on the ground for residents.
We're still here, we're still battling. Things have calmed down in the city a little bit, but guys are out as we speak, fighting fires, trying to protect your property. The beast is still up, it's surrounding the city, and we're here doing our very best for you. All the best, please take care.
In the midst of all the disaster, there are also stories of hope. Here are just a few examples of how people are helping each other out in this desperate time of need.
Day in my life turned into the best morning of my life.
Those stories are why people all over the country are now sharing Rex Murphy's rant from the CBC's The National last night. He talked about that Albertan spirit of helping each other. Here's just a bit of what he had to say.
Fort McMurray and Alberta have, over the years, before this week's appalling inferno, reached into the lives and improved the fortunes of hundreds and thousands of Canadians in every province. That deserves underlining at this moment. I'll be personal for a second. For example, when Newfoundlanders were crawling out of the shock and misery of the cod collapse, Fort McMurray was like a rescue centre. Newfoundlanders in droves left house and home and went west. And as was the Albertan Fort Mac way, when people are hurting, all are welcome. Some of these were real friends of mine, and I know at their most difficult moments how much the Alberta welcome meant to them. It told me something. If you want to know, really know, what it means to be a true neighbour, ready to help in hard times, go to Alberta. It's the Prairie Code, and in our best times, it's the Canadian Code too. Every citizen is your neighbour. So here's the real karma in the Fort Mac tragedy, and it's not karma at all. Albertans were good to all of us back then. Let us be good and better to them now.
You can see the rest of Rex Murphy's rant if you missed it on our website, CBC.ca. Now, there was lots to eat and drink this morning at Churchill Square. This morning, Economic Development Edmonton served up a free pancake breakfast for anyone from Fort McMurray. It was $5 for everyone else, money that will go straight to the Red Cross for relief efforts. They raised more than $75,000, including a $15,000 check from one anonymous donor. There's that Alberta generosity once again. We'll be back with more coverage of the Fort McMurray fires in just a few minutes, including a live press conference with Premier Rachel Notley and Edmonton Mayor Don Iveson. Tampa Bay and the New York Islanders are about to face off in NHL action, but we're going to stay on the air for a few extra minutes to bring you a news conference live with the Premier and Mayor Don Iveson at the Northlands Evacuation Centre. That's scheduled to start any moment. Meanwhile, here's the big news of the day. A convoy of vehicles is slowly making its way through Fort McMurray days after residents were forced out by a wildfire. On Tuesday, about 25,000 people fled north to work camps in the oil sands when the fire overtook Fort McMurray. The RCMP is escorting 50 vehicles at a time along Highway 63 through the town. After that, drivers can head south to Edmonton or Calgary. Officials are hoping to move 500 vehicles through Fort McMurray by the end of the day. A helicopter is flying overhead, making sure the road is safe. And this is what it looked like from the inside of one of those vehicles making the slow journey along the highway. Some people will be very close to their homes as they pass through the city with their police escort, but they're not allowed to stop or divert from the convoy in any way. Getting everyone through the city to the south is expected to take days. Well, a bride-to-be from Fort McMurray got to see firsthand some of the generosity so many people are talking about. She lost her wedding dress to the raging wildfire, but she and her fiancé decided to go ahead with their plans for a wedding in Toronto anyway. That's when Torontonians stepped in to help. Now she has a dress just like the one she lost. Strangers set up a Facebook page to help her, and as you can see, she's very emotional and excited. And thanks to the kindness of strangers, she can move forward with her big day. Read more about her story on our website. That's at CBCNews.ca/Edmonton. You can also read about this. Instead of beer, Labatt Breweries is shipping 200,000 cans of water to Alberta, and they have another 130,000 cans ready to ship very soon. Some people are saying they might have preferred beer, but I'm sure they're happy for any kind of drink right now. The idea of thousands of people losing their homes is difficult for most of us to grasp, but a group of Syrian refugees in Calgary knows exactly what it's like. They've come together from across the city to help the Fort McMurray fire evacuees, giving what little they have to their neighbors to the north.